So hi everyone, good morning. How are you all doing? Good. It's great to see you all in class again. And it's nice to have a lot of replies coming in on the chat as well. Good, so interesting. So I was just going through the schedule before joining, and you guys have some packed schedule. Yeah, it wasn't this hectic for us when we were in college. So completely hats off to all you guys. I don't know how you manage back-to-back sessions and then another session in the afternoon. And I'm sure you have college studies also to do at this time, right? Possibly some exams coming up or something that you have to catch up on. So it's an achievement just getting through the day, I think. But good, seriously, you guys are putting in a lot of effort. It's a good time investment, of course, because you guys are investing in your career. The effort that you put in over the next 6 months or so is going to give you good dividends next year and for many years after that. So it's nice to see people working hard, and of course, it's nice to see 400 students on time. In fact, before time, yeah, exactly on dot 9:15. So that's also a very good sign for your future. Punctuality is quite important. Good. So it's good to see you all again. Today we are going to get into a new topic. I'll just fetch my slides. Yep. So slides visible, I hope. Can you just quickly let me know in the chat? So yesterday at the start of our class, I took you through an overview of what we are planning to cover over the 12 sessions that we are doing for verbal ability. Yesterday, we started with just a little warm-up session of vocabulary. We saw a few new words. We saw some interesting photo exercises, couple of confusing words between the two, how to choose or which one to choose. We also have classes coming up on reading comprehension, on grammar, and on verbal logic, or some may also refer to this as verbal reasoning, because it's more of logical reasoning than verbal ability, not English as such, right? So yesterday we did one session of this. Today we are going to jump into verbal logic. And I think you have a second session today afternoon where my colleague Praddy will be taking you through the start or the foundation session of grammar. So this is coming up for you later today. Right now we're going to do Parajumbles, which is here, which is our first session of verbal logic or verbal reasoning. Okay. So Parajumbles is quite easy to do. Huh? You will have 4 or 5 statements which are given to you. But the problem is they will be in a jumbled up order. They will not be aligned to make sense, which is what we have to do. So they will be named A, B, C, D, E, and we have to put them in the right order. If you read it in a line, it should make sense. Okay, so maybe the right order could be starting with another sentence, D, E, A, yeah, C, D, A, E, B. It could be like this, just an example. So without really getting into much of detail on what they are, let's do a few practice questions. So my slides today are arranged in a sequence. Okay, so we'll start with a few easy questions. Some of you may find it too easy, but these are also questions which have appeared in your examination. So all the questions have been picked from exam papers today. You may find it easy. For us today, it is warm up because they are at the start, few questions will be on the easier side. I will also revise a little bit on how to solve as we go through the questions. So our entire slide today is questions. There is no concept, there is no theory. But when we solve them, when I explain how to solve, we can do a little bit of revision. What are the tips and tricks to solve them faster? And as we proceed through the class, slightly the options will get a bit longer. From easy, it will become moderate. And maybe towards the end of a class, couple of questions I have at a harder difficulty level. Okay, so that's how I have arranged them. So let's get into a bit of warm up. The initial few questions should be quick, won't take too much time. So what you can do is you can type out your answer into the chat. If you think the order of the statements is PQRS, you can type out PQRS or whichever order you feel is right.
Right.
Yeah, Shrikar, you have a doubt? Yep. So it's nice to see a lot of answers pouring in into the chat. Good to know all of you all are awake and all of you are active. So let's solve this. This one's on the easier side. Yeah. The first thing you do when you approach a parajumble is to read it, start to finish. Just read. Donkey, horses, and mules are some pack animals. Animals that carry load are called pack animals. Llamas are also pack animals. Their bodies are covered with wool. We try to identify a statement out of these which will introduce the topic of what we are talking about. Yeah. So the best statement to introduce the topic, the paragraph itself is talking about pack animals. So animals that carry load are called pack animals. It defines what pack animals are. So Q is the best opener. Then from a general introduction, you move into a few examples. So if you're talking about pack animals, then obviously it helps to have a few examples. Donkey, horses, and mules are some pack animals. Not all, but some. Okay. There is a key word here also, which links between sentences. If you've given a few examples of pack animals, example 1, 2, and 3, then you can say llamas are also pack animals. Sorry, this is R, not Q. Right? Llamas are also pack animals after having a few examples. And another connector, their bodies are covered with wool. Now, when we are referring to their, who can it refer to? It can either refer to llamas, their bodies are covered with wool. It may refer to donkey, horses, and mules as well. I can see some of the options have said QPSR. Yeah. But that's incorrect because from our general knowledge, we know that donkeys, horses, and mules' bodies are not covered in wool. Right? That's not possible. So llama's bodies covered in wool makes much more sense. So you get QPRS. Okay. Some also linked QSRP. There's a doubt which is on the chat. QSRP. Now, animals that carry load are called pack animals. Their bodies are covered in wool. If you link their bodies to pack animals, does it mean that all pack animals' bodies will be covered in wool? But the problem is, we know some pack animals which are mentioned in the paragraph itself. Their bodies are not covered in wool. They have regular skin and hair, donkeys, horses, mules. So we know that this is not true. It cannot be true in the real world. So we try to avoid those options as well. Okay, so just going from a purely logical, as much as close to reality perspective. Okay, so let's do one more. This is all warm up, these are very short, quite easy to solve. Okay, so again, as we read from top to bottom, we are trying to judge what is this paragraph talking about. Have the same name, sometimes young ones of different animals are called a calf, young ones of elephant, whale, and cow. So it's talking about animals whose young ones have the same name. And the best statement to introduce this is you start with Q. Sometimes young ones of different animals have the same name. So QP is one pair. Okay, these two go together. And you can see the young ones of an elephant, a whale, and a cow are called a calf, right? SR is also a pair. They go together. Okay, they are continuing sentences. You may see that in your parajumble questions, even though they are continuing sentences, the end of the sentence will have a full stop. Huh? This may happen, but when you put it together, they can be continuing sentences also. Sometimes the examiners will be helpful. Instead of a full stop, they will put a comma. So you know that a place where there is a comma, that sentence continues into another sentence. So if the examiner is feeling friendly, he may put a comma. To make it more difficult, he may put a full stop. Then you have to judge whether it is continuing or not. Okay. Now within these two, we have identified a pair. Are other pairs possible? Sometimes young ones of different animals are called a calf. Does this sound like a logical sentence? All different animals, young ones who have the same name, may not be calf, right? They may be called something else. So QR doesn't make sense. QP and SR is the best combination. And in choosing which one to put first, generally we go with the introduction or a general statement first about the paragraph, and we go with examples later. So first introduce the topic, then give examples. So in this case, I will say QPSR rather than SRQ. Okay, this would be my answer. Now you may have noticed something on the top of the slides, Parajumbles type 1. Okay, so we have two types of parajumbles in my slides today. One type is when you have 4 or 5 statements and you have to arrange them in a particular order, like we just did. There is another type of parajumble in which the first and the last statements are fixed. They will be numbered 1 and 6. And the statements in between will be the parajumble that you have to choose. So 1 and 6 are fixed. The examiner is helping you out. And these will be jumbled. So you have to choose the correct order within the intervening statements. This is type 2. So type 1, where all the statements are jumbled. Type 2, only the middle statements are jumbled. And to further complicate this, some exams will give you options, some exams will not give you options. So as we are practicing here, we need to actually type out the option. You are putting in the chat, right? QPSR, SRQP. So some exams will have this option. Sorry about that. Slide still visible, I hope. Just checking. I had some alert on my computer. Yeah, okay. So here we are typing out the options. Some exams have this option where you need to type out, right? Some exams will actually give you options. So you will have 1, 2, 3, and 4. This way, where the exams have options is a bit easier because you can actually do only 1 or 2 strong connections within this. If you identified QP or you identified SR, you can check within the options which one has QP, which one has SR, and you can directly select the options. So having options makes it easier. My questions will be a mix of both types. Some questions will have options, some questions will not have options. Okay. I saw a question in the chat for why not SRQP. So in any parajumble, we try to have general statements first, which is an introduction to the topic, and we try to have specific examples later. So in this case, QP introduces the topic and our SR is examples. So that's why SR after QP. It's a general rule. yes, when you say it, SRQP also sounds okay. So if among the options SRQP is present and QPSR is not present, please go ahead and choose SRQP. It's not wrong. But within the two, I would say QPSR is a stronger option. Okay. So let's do our last warm-up question. A quick question, short question. Okay, so much higher accuracy level this time around, which is good to see. So as we read, in our minds, we can also keep eliminating which question can be, which statement can be the opening statement. So keep working in your mind simultaneously, right? Which are held on all India basis suggests that this is a continuing statement. This can't start. By different organizations also suggest that there is something before or after it, right? Not the ideal opening statement. Appear in examinations also, not the ideal opening statement. Many students from all over India can open. Okay. And sometimes it helps to just go in elimination. Many students from all over India, which are held on all India basis, no. Students cannot be held. Many students by different organizations, no. If there were students, they would have been from different organizations, not by different organizations. So this is also eliminated. So we try this. Many students from all over India appear in examinations. Now again we eliminate. Examinations which are held on all India basis, and then you go to by different organizations. Okay, makes sense. Let's try to reverse it. Examinations by different organizations which are held on all India basis. I think QPQ is much better than QP. So SRPQ, not QP. Okay. So examinations which, this is the connector, and held by. So by always have to come after held. Okay. So this was easy. I think accuracy on this was much higher than before. Not very confusing. So the first three were only warm up. Huh? They were easy. Now let's get into slightly more difficult questions. So I can do difficulty level in two ways. Okay, we have a doubt here. SRPQ is not an option, then can we select SRQP? You can, no problem. I think grammatically, which examinations which should continue, and then held by should be a continuation. So if this is an exam question and if options are there, then SRPQ will be there in the options. I don't think it will be missing, right? So don't worry about it. So in terms of difficulty level, we can do two things. One is I try to make these statements much longer. So you will take more times to absorb what is being said, to join the different statements. So that is one type of difficulty. Another type of difficulty is some examinations might add another statement here. Yeah, RSTU. So there can be 5 questions. 6 we have not seen in the exams. 3, 4, and 5 questions, 5 statements we have seen. So these are two ways in which difficulty level of Parajumble increases. And we also know giving options and not giving options is one of the ways in which they change their difficulty level. So just a revision slide. I'm not spending much time on this. I know that you guys have covered this already. Yeah. First thing is we read all parts of the sentence to know what is being spoken about. So first read start to finish. While you're reading, in your mind, keep your mind working what statement can be the first statement. So keep reading, keep figuring out. Can this be the first? No, eliminate. Can this be the first? Okay, we can choose it. Then while you're still reading, try to join two statements in pairs, like the one which we just did. Examinations which. So you know now this continues, right? Examinations which, held by. So identify logical pairs. One statement which has to follow behind another statement, and keep working in your mind simultaneously while you're reading the question. Okay, because this is a game of time. All of you all know this in your exams. Some helpful connections I will also point out, like when we do the next few slides, I will show you some things which help you identify. They are called transition words, conjunctions, pronouns, antecedents. Some specific words help you identify, okay, this statement should come after this statement. This statement should come first. So we'll study a few examples of that, right? And of course, there are some statements which are very obviously closing statements, and those can be used as the last one. Huh. So good, interesting question from Varun. Guys, any of my slides, please ask me if something is not understood. Huh? Varun is asking, what are antecedents? Okay, so when we have a sentence saying, Kushal's presentation has a yellow border, okay, his presentation was very nice. So in the next sentence, when we use a pronoun, his, right, this is referring to Kushal, is referring to me. So the actual name of the person who the pronoun is referring to, or the thing, in case the pronoun is it will be referring to something, airplane, dog, something like that. So this is called the antecedent of the pronoun, the actual person or thing to whom that pronoun is referring to. So how to use it in a parajumble? Wherever specific names are given, that has to come first. And only after that you can use a pronoun. You can't start with their exams went very well because you don't know who they are. So first, a statement will be there saying something about students, right? So the students are the antecedent of the pronoun there. Okay, so this is one helpful way in which we can identify what should come first and what should come later. Okay, but good question, Varun. Nice, thanks for putting it up. And please do keep asking wherever things are not understood. Okay, so shall we solve? So as we read now, we are trying to identify links between sentences, and we're trying to identify which statement can open. Okay, so people started fearing a famine. Monsoon turned out to be unusually abundant and the danger was averted. Monsoon failed, water tanks became almost empty. So no grain could be sown by the farmers in the field. Farmers looked anxiously for the next monsoon. So one thing, if you've noticed, I now have 5 statements, not 4. So far, we've done only 4 statements. Okay. So if you don't consider the options, it is slightly more difficult. But the advantage is I have given you options now. So after identifying few important things within the statement, you can actually go to the options and start selecting. No problem. Okay. So in this case, as we are reading, we are seeing some of the statements appear to be negative. Okay. It's something about monsoon not being enough, right? Fearing a famine, is this negative? Yes. Monsoon failed, it's negative. No grain could be sown, it's negative. Farmers were anxious, negative. All of these are negative. Okay. One statement, monsoon turned out to be unusually abundant and the danger was averted. What is averted? Averted is saved from, right? So, 4 statements which are suggesting one thing and one statement which is suggesting the opposite. Ideally, it should be in a group. Either this should come first and 4 should come later, or 4 should come first and the last statement should be the one where the danger is saved. So it's a hint that B might be your closing statement, because you're talking about all the problems that were happening and then monsoon came. It was unusually abundant. Abundant means more than expected, higher than expected, and the danger was saved. So using this judgment, can we try to see, okay, 2 of my statements have B at the end. They are possibilities. Okay. Now within the 4, let's try to see what opens. Yeah. People started fearing a famine, but why would they? Can this be an opening statement? No. Cause should come first, then effect. Okay. So in all of these, the cause appears to be C. The monsoon failed and water tanks became almost empty. Okay. So C can open. Now again, we start eliminating. There is C here and there is C here. Okay. So 3 and 4 also can be eliminated because A, we have said, cannot be the first one. And D starts with a so. So you can't start a paragraph with a so because you need a reason before it. So D is also eliminated. So when you have options, elimination becomes easier. You don't need to solve the whole thing. You bring some strong points into your mind and you can start eliminating whether they join or not. That being said, a lot of people have replied CA. Okay. Monsoon failed and water tanks became empty. People started fearing a famine. This connection, this connection is okay if it were CA. But CA continues into D in this one, yeah? CAD. People started fearing a famine, so no grain could be sown. No. The fear of a famine is not the reason for sowing no grain. The reason for not sowing is that there is no water. Okay. So monsoon failed and therefore no grain could be sown. So CD is a much better connect. And because no grain is sown in the farms, and that's why people start fearing we will go hungry. And they start fearing a famine in which people don't have food. So CDA more than CAD. And of course, B is the last one. So that supports your option 2. Okay. Interesting question. If BCDAE and CDAEB is given, which option should be preferred? BCDAE. So this is from 1 to G2. I'm not sure about your name. Let's. So when you're talking about a fear of monsoon failing, not having food, not planting something, and then monsoon turned out to be unusually abundant and danger was averted. So guys, just if possible, okay, let's just mute all. You are mentioning statements about danger and then only you can avert the danger. If you start with B, then we don't know what this danger is. So starting with B is difficult. Okay, so B, C, D, A, E is not a good option. Just you're mentioning all the danger and then you're going into it was averted. Okay, so let's do another quick one. Same type of question. 5 statements and 4 options. Okay, so this one's slightly on the easier side, I think. All of you all have the same answer. So here also we are trying to go into cause and effect. What should come first? That which is the main cause of whatever is happening. Okay. So some of you all have chosen to start with C. The river overflowed its banks and the terrified villagers abandoned their homes. This is okay. But then E goes to B. Soon the floods retired and the villagers were able to return. And then it continues into they fled. So this is not connecting. B in the middle is not okay. Right? A better way to start is cause first. What caused the river to overflow? First of all, it was raining heavily for many days. So open with D, not with C. Okay. And then you go into then what happened. So the rain fell steadily, the river overflowed its banks. Only from the rain falling would the villagers be required to abandon their homes? No, we still don't have reason for this, right? So DE is not a good connection. DC is much better. And now we already have the answer. So just verify wherever you have options and you feel one option is correct, just look at all the statements if they are fitting. Otherwise, there may be few statements which are fitting and then at the end there is a bouncer. Okay, so just verify. So rains fell heavily, river overflowed, terrified villages abandoned. After abandoning homes, they fled somewhere. So D, C, E, A, and then all of these were negative, 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 negative. And then finally, the floods receded, they retired, and the villagers were able to come back to their homes. So positive. So you end with what happened last. So D, C, E, A, B. Okay. So any doubts here so far? We've had questions which are on the shorter side. We've had questions which are fairly simple. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce slightly more difficult questions by increasing the length of your statements. So now you'll have a little longer sentences to work with for a few slides. So let's see what these answers can be. Yes, Srikar, there are only three in this one. That's it. You can have between three options, right? So on sentences like this, there are two ways to go about it. Okay, while we are reading, we are trying to identify which one can be the first statement. In this, The statement which introduces the person that you are talking about most perfectly can be your first statement, because in any paragraph or news article or story that you read, the initial statement is always an introduction of the person. Okay. So in the first statement, they say the Secretary of State. Who is the Secretary of State? We don't know. Third statement, it says Clinton arrived. But who is Clinton? Yeah, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, we don't know which it is. Yeah. Look at this statement. US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Everything is perfectly defined. So B is your opening statement, because it is introducing the character who you are talking about in the rest of the paragraph. Okay, so Clinton arrived in India on Sunday for strategic talks aimed at so and so and so. Okay. Now another trick in some of these parajumbles is you try to follow the chronological order of what is happening when. Chronological order means as per the time, right? What happened first, then what happened, then what happened, then what happened. Okay, as if you are telling a story. So try to follow a chronological order or a sequence, and your parajumble will come out the right way. So first one introduced who it was, arrived in India on Sunday for strategic talks and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. C is giving us more details on when Hillary Clinton arrived on Sunday before noon, according to reporter traveling with her, and what she was going to do on Sunday evening. So C is still on Sunday. Look at A. On Monday, the Secretary of State is due to hold high level meetings with some other people and whatever else is planned. Okay. So if you are starting with B, then Sunday plan and Sunday evening's plan should come before Monday's plan in the chronological order. So your answer becomes BCA, not BAC. Because if you go from B to Monday and then you suddenly come back to Sunday, it doesn't sound right. Yeah. Chronological order. Okay. So let's continue now. This is slightly more difficult than the previous one. And if I add one or two more statements, it will become closer to the highest difficulty level. Don't worry. All exams of yours are not this difficult. Many exams have questions like we did on the first 5 slides. Huh? They are your level of difficulty. So don't need to worry about slightly more difficult questions. It's okay. Kirti is asking, C statement can also refer to Monday noon. See, Kirti, in B statement, we are saying arrived in India on Sunday. And C is saying arrived by plane in Delhi before noon, right? So I would assume that this noon is Sunday itself. And because this noon is also ahead of talks in the evening. So arrival date is the same. You can't arrive twice. So, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, another one. Right. So shall we solve? Now in this group of statements, you may have noticed that there is a pair of statements which go together. Okay, if you start reading, they found that the surface water may be as much as 20 degrees warmer than the deep water. But who is they? You're trying to find, someone was asking, no, what is antecedent? So they is a pronoun. And you have to search for who this they is referring to. And that becomes your antecedent. And that they are your French engineers. This is your antecedent.
They is called as
Okay.
antecedent. They
So
is
all what you can judge is
what is called as
C,
an antecedent. You understand?
C has to come before
Now,
A, right? Because you can't start with they unless you have mentioned who you're talking about. So C has to come before they, right? And another interesting word that is in the statements is the word but. Okay. But always changes your stance. So you're talking about one thing before but comes. And after but, you're talking about something opposite. Okay. You're giving an opposing point of view, right? There is one statement which is a general statement. The cheapest collector of sun's heat is a body of water. So after reading all of these four, we can make two groups. One group is where French engineers have been trying to harness the temperature difference produced by sunshine. C. They continues with French engineers in the same way. So they are trying to harness, and A continues that the temperature difference may be as much as 20 degrees. So harnessing is still possible. Okay. But you have D, and this changes your stance. On this side, harnessing the temperature difference was a possibility. On this side, you are telling an opposite view. But the 20-degree difference is too small for operating a turbine. Okay. Uh, Sairamya has an interesting question. Harness means to derive power from. Okay. So to make use of is to harness. An actual harness is something of a belt or something of a something you put over an animal so that that animal can drive forward. So that's a harness. In this case, you are harnessing power from the wave motion, which is created by the temperature difference in the sea. Okay. So D introduced an opposite point of view. 20 degrees was a very small temperature difference for operating a turbine. All these three statements are a trio. They go together. And all you have to decide is whether B should go here or B should go here, right? But B is positive. The cheapest collector of the sun's heat is a body of water. B is supporting the perspective that power can be harnessed from water, from the temperature difference. Okay. So B cannot follow from D. B will open the statement. You get BCAD. This is your answer. Okay. So you open with the cheapest collector. There is a possibility of harnessing. French engineers are trying to harness, temperature difference is so and so, but that is not enough. And you close. That's it. So BCAD. Okay, so halfway through class, and it's sometimes good to take a little bit of a break, not make it monotonous and continuously, parajumble upon parajumble. I am putting, some are solving, some are not solving. Hopefully, most are understanding. If there are any doubts so far, please put it in the chat. But let's take a 2-minute break and talk about something else other than parajumbles. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying. I had received some feedback at the end of my last class, which was of the vocab, just a warm up and what we're talking about, different kinds of words. But some of you all had mentioned that we would like more practice. Okay. So we have more practice for you. Don't worry. This class is entirely practice. It's just parajumble after parajumble, right? Some of our sessions will be a mix of practice and some concepts which will be just revision. Okay, some grammar concepts are required. Otherwise, it's mostly practice. Even on vocabulary, there will be more classes where you have to solve, where you have to practice. And I have different types of questions coming up for you. We have fill in the blanks, we have analogies, We'll also study what phrasal verbs are. So don't worry. Um, for those who are attending and have understood, every day, if you have time after your classes, I know your day is very packed. I know that you guys are putting in a lot of effort, 9:15 to evening sometime. But if you find time, log on to the website, apexinstitute.net. Okay. Every day, the topics that we are covering in class, we are putting up more practice tests on the same topics. Similar kind of questions which we do in class, we are going to put on the website. So more practice. Okay. So if you've absorbed in class, if you've learned, then the practice test becomes a reinforcement of what you learned. It's more practice makes you faster. Okay. And for those who have not understood, or maybe you've forgotten at the end of the day, we are also putting up recorded sessions which we do in class on the website, so you can watch the session and you can try to have a look at the concept test after that. Okay. Okay, so some interesting questions coming up on the chat. Okay, so someone is saying college management has made tests mandatory. So then you have to attend. There is no option. I'm sorry for that, but that's not our call. It's a college administration call. Tests will, I think, also remain live later over the rest of the year. So you will get to go back to it. Don't worry. Okay. Someone had a doubt. Let me just pop this on. So someone had a doubt about parajumbles coming from cat mocks. Okay. So I think some might have attempted a few cat mocks or tried to practice using cat material. See, that's a good strategy. Cat is a little bit tougher than the parajumbles that you attempt in your placement examinations. Okay. So keep that in mind. The cat level is much tougher in parajumbles, and cat does not have options. It has only 4 statements, slightly longer statements, and sometimes confusing. If you can get the ones that are in CAT practice, you will find your placement examinations very easy. Very easy. Because the recruiters are not looking to test you on that level as the IIMs. Yeah. So it is very good practice. If you want to do CAT practice and attempt your placement exams, you will find it on the easier side in all of the topics. Huh? So if you practice RC, reading comprehension for CAT, your placement exams will go much easier. If you practice parajumble in CAT, placement exam will have easier parajumbles. They will be shorter. Sometimes they will have options. We've already seen that it gets a bit easy. Okay. Some are asking for recommendations on textbooks. So in terms of textbooks, see, there will be different textbooks for different kinds of practice within verbal. Okay. Now, if someone wants to increase their vocabulary, I can suggest a book called Word Power Made Easy. It's by Norman Lewis. It's a nice textbook. It takes you through some words which appear in your exams. In fact, it's actually not made for your placement exams. It's made for GMAT and GRE. So the words, the vocabulary is a bit higher. Okay. So if you want to increase your vocabulary, you can have a look at that book, Word Power Made Easy by Norman Lewis. It will have words which are as per frequency. So the most frequently used words are easy, which we use in everyday life. There are less frequently used words which we don't use at all. We may not know them also. Those we use to increase our vocabulary. And those are the words which sometimes are used in your vocab questions, or it is sometimes used in your RCs also. Okay. Then for grammar, we refer to the textbook from your school time. Yeah, there is a textbook called Wren and Martin. So Wren and Martin will teach you perfectly what kind of rules to use, which is the correct way to say something. So the same topics which we are studying in class, you can try and look in the textbook called Wren and Martin. I think it is 9th and 10th standard textbook for English grammar. So that is a very nice book in terms of understanding. Okay. For sentence completion, it will also have fill in the blanks. Wren and Martin has. But specifically for your test, sentence completion, we'll try to put up more practice tests. So all of our practice tests will be sentence completion. And if you need, maybe before your examinations also, we could come back and do another session with you just for revision, which will be only practice. It will be just sentence completion. So we can do that at a later stage. Um, RS Agarwal is also good. Yes. I think RS Agarwal is also CAT. So it is at a slightly higher level than you would expect in your placement exams. Okay. Chalo. So let's get back to Parajumble. And it's nice to have this kind of discussion midway through the class. Please, whatever doubts you have, whatever queries, keep them with you. In all of my classes, I'll try to take a 2-5 minute break in between class, and I'll try to have this kind of a discussion with all of you. No problem. Okay. So now if more questions are there, let's park it for the next class. I will, of course, meet you later this week again. Don't worry. Yeah. So a new type of question in Parajumble now. Statement 1 and statement 6 are fixed, and we only want to decide the order of the 4 statements A, B, C, and D. Yeah. So many of y'all have got this right, and I'm really happy about that, because now we've started identifying what comes first and what comes next. So 1 and 6 are fixed. That's okay. Within the statements, as we read, can we identify which statements are good and which statements are bad? Yeah. So some words are telling us it is good for eyes. You can say it is a positive statement. It prevents skin from drying. Positive statement. Okay. Both of these are positive statements. Then you have people who are deficient in vitamin A have problems seeing at night. So you have negative statements. And this is also a problem. So this is a negative statement. Okay. And if you notice, statement 1, which is fixed, is good for health. So you have positive. And statement 6 starts with a so. So eat fruits and vegetables that are high. This suggests that it is solving a problem. Okay, it is giving you a solution. If this is wrong and that is wrong, so you should eat this so that you won't have these problems. So this suggests that positive statement should continue into positive statements. So B or A should be at the start of your sentence, which should then continue into C and D. Now, one quick link is C and D are one statement. People who are deficient may have problems seeing at night and may have dry eyes. So C, D is one continuation, right? Between B and C, B and A, let's decide what goes first. Vitamin A is good for health. It prevents skin from drying. It is also good for eyes. Okay. So also suggests that it is a continuing statement. Okay. If you do statement 1, you go to A, it is also good for eyes, and it is required to do something, and then you go to B, it doesn't sound right. This order doesn't sound right. Because vitamin A is good for health, also good for eyes because of a reason. It prevents skin from drying. Then again, you're coming to a health benefit. better. Statement 1, good for health. You give an example of a health benefit, which is in B. It prevents skin from drying. That way it is good for health. And then continue into also good for eyes. So statement 1, B, A, C, D. Statement 6. This would be my answer. Okay. So was this interesting? A new type of question. Huh? First and last statement fixed. So let's do one more of this. And this time I give you options also. So 5F1, we'll go back to it. No problem. I'll explain again. So for those who are done, bonus marks if you can tell me where this story is from. Oh, good, you know. Yes. Wow. That's great. Yeah, it's from Mahabharata. But the characters are interchanged. Huh? It's actually the king who goes and falls in love, and the prince asks him, why you are sad. So the characters are interchanged. But you've got it right. Good. Acha, heir is someone who is going to inherit the throne. Okay, heir to the throne. So heir to the throne is the next line of ruler. So if the king is currently the ruler, then the heir to the throne is his son, the person who will inherit the throne once the king dies. So that's heir to the throne, the designated next ruler. So this is a simple one. It's in the line of a story. So you just need to put it into order of this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and then what happened. Okay, in which two statements are fixed. Prince met a beautiful fisher girl. Is there a reason for getting disappointed? No. Is there a reason for meeting the fisherman? No. First, you need to fall in love with the girl. So, S1, R, fell in love. Then he went to meet her father to express his desire to marry his daughter. So, RQ. But the fisherman had a condition that the son of his daughter should be the heir to the throne. So, in this case, if you consider king as the person sitting on the throne, prince as the person who is his son, who is the current heir, yeah, the fisherman is saying that the prince will not inherit the throne. The grandson, the son of prince and the fisherman's daughter, will inherit the throne, right? So the prince has to give up his right to the throne. So obviously, he went to meet the father. Father put a condition, and since the condition cannot be met, he got disappointed, and then went back home, where the king asked him the reason for his disappointment. So RQSP, which is right here. Okay, so this was simple. I don't think I received many other options or answers. It was fairly easy to do. Just put it in the form of a story. Judge what should come before in the story and what should come after. And you have to keep putting it in the right chronological order. In fact, options made it much easier. So wherever you have parajumble practice, try to do without options. It will make it tougher. You might be confused. But if you can solve without options, that is the best practice. In the paper with options, you will find it much easier. You will be faster. Hema has a question. Why not one? QRSP. Once the prince met a beautiful fisher girl. He went to meet the fisherman to express the desire to marry his daughter. Acha, so Hema first, before marrying, he needs to fall in love with the girl, no? So QR doesn't work. It's incorrect. This needs to be interchanged. So this is the problem. Okay. Someone had a doubt in the previous one. I think someone was asking why not ABCD. So in this, vitamin A is good for health. It is also good for eyes, as it is required to make a light sensitive substance in the skin. If B was not there, then S1 could have continued into A. Okay, S1A is okay when you say it. But when you put B into the picture, you've already used also. Now it prevents skin from drying doesn't become a logical statement because here you need a connector. Either it also prevents skin from drying or it prevents skin from drying too, or it prevents skin from drying as well. You're giving more and more benefits, no? So S1AB doesn't work. Instead, if you do S1B, good for health, B is talking about how it is good for health. It giving an example. And then you have A, which has the word also, which is okay, which is a continuation. And then you do CD. Okay, so I hope this is fine. Chalo, so let's try to maximize our practice now. Last 20 minutes of the class. Let's see how many we can do.
వస్తాడా మరి ఇప్పుడు?
Okay, so shall we solve? So two options appeared the most within the answer that I received. One was A, E, C, D, D. Okay, another was A, B, C, D, E. And a few people have chosen A, C, D, E, D. Okay, and I think these were the most common the options that appealed to all of you. So let's take them one by one. Environment education unit, as we do, we are going to read, we are going to try to judge opening line, what is best. Environment education unit of Center for Science and Environment has always been working towards providing easy to understand reading material. So within all the rest of the statements, this works very well as an opening statement. A is okay. And I think all of you all have used it also in your opening statement. Okay. The key point here is towards providing easy to understand reading material. Reading material is singular. It cannot be plural. It is an uncountable noun. Yeah. However, they are introduced to students not as a paragraph but as an activity. They cannot refer to material because material is singular. Yeah. Material requires an it, not they. So A, B doesn't hold. A, B is not correct. You have to be careful about these small things. Huh? Okay. What else can go? It unfolds in two sections. So it has always been working towards providing easy to understand reading material. It unfolds in two sections: climate change and how to make sense, and natural resources and how to share. Okay. So this was okay. But then it unfolds in two sections, these two. Then you go to E, their new publication on this subject. But if you continue E after C and D, their new publication, the antecedent of this pronoun is climate change and natural resources, not environment, education, unit, and center. Something came in between. So this link also does not hold, right? Because E then referred to the topics which were introduced, and they cannot be publicizing or publishing a new book, right? It's the center which is publishing. So therefore, AE is a good link. Environment Education Unit has always been blah blah blah. Their new publication is an attempt to lend teachers a helping hand. Okay, so AE is strong. Then a helping hand and new publication is singular, can continue into it. It unfolds in two sections: climate change and natural resources. However, they are introduced because there are two sections, right? This is plural, this is multiple. They are introduced to students not as a paragraph to memorize, but as an activity. So AECDB. A doubt from 523. Sir, what if they refers to environmental education unit? So again, they cannot refer to environmental education unit because unit is singular. Right? So they cannot refer to. Okay, so we'll carry on.
It's a small doubt.
हाँ बोलो.
Sir, can E come at last, sir? E,
Can
E option.
E come at
last.
the end?
Yes, sir.
See, purely coming at the end works, but then somewhere or the other the links are going wrong, no? So as a last option, it's okay. But you also have to figure out whether all of this is strong. Only then it can come as a last.
ACDB work easier. Can it work, sir? ACDB.
ACDB. So let's check. ACD was okay. We just judged it. Material, it unfolds, natural resources. Then they go to B. However, they are introduced to students not as a paragraph to memorize, but as an activity to do, right? And their new publication. So again, this link is not strong. No? Even B was okay here. ACDB was okay because two sections and they are introduced. So this was plural. But when they continue from their new publication, now there becomes a problem. From E, you are referring back to A. But if you introduce two new sections, there would have become two new sections. So this link doesn't hold. Right?
E should
ACDB.
come. I mean, E should
So
come
therefore, E needs to come before. Because everywhere you need to have a strong pronoun and antecedent kind of link. For the same reason, again, A, D, B, C also doesn't work. You've interchanged the location of D and C, whereas they are continuing statements. So this is a strong link. I don't think you can separate them. Okay. So those who have continuing doubts will go back after this one. No problem. Okay, so let's solve. So the best sentence to introduce what we're talking about is the origin of Zen Buddhism or the flower ceremony. Best opening statement out of all of them, because the rest of it is a story. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So this is all story. But what is introducing the story? Origin of Zen Buddhism is ascribed to the flower ceremony, the earliest source which comes from the 14th century. So D needs to open. And since we are given options, we can start using those options. D can open, D can open. One of the Buddha's disciples, Mahakasyapa, silently gazed at the flower and broke into a broad smile. Do we know what this flower is? No. DC doesn't seem to be very correct. Yeah. Oh, here is B, not even D. So this can't open. There's only one. Okay. This can then continue into the start of the story. For what is a sermon? So a sermon is a religious talk. It's a religious speech. A sermon can be given in church, or in this case, in Buddhism, Gautam Buddha gave a sermon to his followers, or any priest who is talking to his followers is called sermon. Yeah. Ascribed to means source from. Okay. Ascribed to is due to. Technically, it means due to. So this mistake can be ascribed to lack of sleep. This failure of the machine can be ascribed to a weak, wrong material that was used. So ascribed to is due to, fault of. But in this case, it can also be said that ascribed to means originated from. So ascribed to. Okay, gazed is to just see with concentration, without a break. He gazed at him while thinking. Yeah, gazed. Silently gazed at the flower here. Okay, so ascribe to the flower sermon. So first, Gautam Buddha gathered his disciples. So you go to B. Then you go to A, when they gathered. So this is a strong link. Buddha was completely silent, and some speculated that maybe he was ill. But he held up a flower and twinkled his eyes, and some disciples tried to interpret. Disciples is followers, though none of them was correct. And then finally, one of his followers broke into a broad smile, which means that probably he has got it. So it's obviously DBAEC. Okay, so I think very few doubts here. So just for a couple of minutes, going back to the previous one, I had a few doubts in the chat even after we switched slides for what is the link between A and E. This was one of the questions that I think was not addressed properly. So A and E, when we're talking about a new publication on this subject, is an attempt to lend teachers a helping hand. the publication is done by some organization. Okay, so if AE has to follow these two statements, the antecedent of the pronoun changes. So if their new publication is referring to the publication of environment education unit of science and whatnot, right? So AE is a strong link. But if E has to come later, then their new publication is talking about publication by climate change and by natural resources. But are they people? No. Is it an organization? No. They are just topics. So E cannot follow C and D. E has to come before. A and E is a strong link. Okay. So I think in this one, I don't think there were many doubts. All of you all also accuracy was close to 90-95% or so. Yep, not a problem. So let's do, we have time, I think. Let's see how many we can do. Okay, so shall we solve? Anyone still attempting? So cricket has been an extremely popular game in India for some time now. Let's see what other statements can open. Okay. Thus, despite India's huge population, we have not done well. This statement suggests that there is something which comes before. Thus, there has to be a reason. So A cannot open. During the British period also, cricket remained unpopular. So again, B cannot open. It suggests that something has to come before. So we eliminate B. Cricket has been an extremely popular game in India for quite some time now. This works as our opening statement. It is time our government and corporate fraternity pay attention to other games. This also seems to be a continuing reason, a continuing effect, a statement which needs something to come before. And E, obviously, however, due to this reason. What is this reason? We don't know. So E definitely cannot open. Okay. We have one of the two, we have eliminated. But what if we were doing this without options? Huh? Still consider the possibility that we may not be given options in some examinations. If you take C, cricket has been an extremely popular game in India for quite some time now. During the British period also, cricket remained popular. Talking about history, What has happened in the past? Talking about history. What has happened in the past? And with the word also. So CB becomes a strong link, right? Now we can just continue and verify whether our option is correctly. Due to this reason, other games did not receive the required attention. Yes, can continue BE. Because it was extremely popular since British times, other games have not got the attention that they deserve. Yep. As a result, so cause and effect. Cause and effect. As a result, despite India's huge population, we've not done well in Olympics. So EA also holds. And now we are coming into a break. So this is all talking about a problem, and D is giving a solution. It is time we do something positive to redeem our national pride. So CBE 8. Okay. I think we have time for one last one. Let's try one more and then we'll call this class to a close. This is a tough one. Huh? 5 statements and no options also. So I'm getting many answers in the chat. So try to implement what we've heard so far in the class, what we've practiced. Try to implement. So let's try to decide here which should be our opening statement. Okay. The two neighbors never fought each other. Who are we talking about? Do we know who these neighbors are? No. A cannot be your opening statement. Fights involving 3 male fiddler crabs have been recorded, but the status of participants was unknown. This can be your opening statement. It introduces a topic of fights involving 3 crabs. Okay. Forget this word. It's just a type of crab. Don't need to remember. They pushed or grappled only with the intruder. Who are they? Do we know? Cannot be opening statement. Okay. We recorded 17 cases in which a resident was fighting an intruder, was joined by an immediate neighbor, an ally. Okay. Now we can link with something that we've heard before. Na? We've heard intruder over here and we've heard neighbor over here. So finally, we have a statement which suggests that some things are becoming clearer. Okay. And you have E. We therefore tracked 268 intruder males until we saw them fighting a resident male. Okay. Now, therefore suggests that there has to be a reason for this. Because something happened, therefore we tracked. Okay. Because this, therefore this. Because this, thus this. Cause and effect. Okay. Reason and outcome. In all of these statements, only one problem is noted. Yeah, the problem is that status of the participants is not known. Okay, this is the problem. This is why they are doing all this experimentation. Okay, so B and E become a pair. Okay. Because the status of the participants is unknown, therefore they did an experiment where they tracked some males until they saw them fighting a resident male. Now, when you do an experiment, when you do some study, yeah, you go from a larger group, you select a sample, you become smaller. From that smaller group, you get an even smaller sample. Okay, you get an outcome, you get a result, right? So let's go in that order. Why not? So we have a problem that status of participants is unknown. We have, therefore, what did we do? We tracked 268 intruder males until we saw them fighting with a resident male. Within this 268, some outcome emerged. Within the other statements, we still don't know what is a neighbor and what is an intruder. Okay, if we are in B and E, the only words which have been introduced is resident male and intruder male. Okay, so they pushed and grappled only with the intruder cannot come after E, because they means that there is more than one people, there is two or more, right? But here we're talking only one with one. So therefore, after 268, we come to a smaller sample. We recorded 17 cases in a resident fighting an intruder and joined by an immediate neighbor. So now suddenly we've defined resident, we've defined intruder, we've defined neighbor. Three terms which were confusing to us have come. And then we can go into the remaining statements. Okay, they were joined by an immediate neighbor or an ally. The two neighbors never fought each other. A, they pushed or grappled only with the intruder. They is referring to two neighbors. So B, E, D, A, C. This is my answer. Okay, I'm happy that some of y'all did get this. So I had a few correct answers, but overall, the difficulty level of this last one was on the higher side. So it's unlikely that many examinations will not have this difficulty level for you. It was quite okay, so an interesting question. Why can't DAC come first, followed by BE? Okay, so we've identified the pairs correctly, statements which go with each other. So this is one pair and this is one pair. Now, go back to what we discussed at the start of the class. Okay, general statement introducing the topic of the passage first. Then examples and specific names, specific data, outcome, result later. Okay, so introducing the topic, we have a problem. We don't know status of participants between fights involving three. Therefore, we did a study, general statement. And then you derive that and you go into what happened in the study and what you observe. Okay, so general statement followed by specific. Okay, so we started easy. We started with a bit of warm up, a few short questions. They are also exam questions. So the first 15 minutes of our class, half an hour, was also all from your examinations. They are the level of difficulty which you will get in your exams. They are not on the easier side. They are your exam questions. But just to learn, just to refresh, and just to move to the next level, we tried going into different types of questions. One where we have first and last fixed, in between we have to choose. One where we can also have options given, options not given. So I'm trying to take you through all sorts of possibilities which can appear in your exams. And I'm really happy that among all the exam questions that we did today, the accuracy for all of them was above 75–80%. Apart from this one, where it was a quite tough question, but otherwise accuracy has been superb. So you guys have a control of Parajumbles. You guys know how to solve them. Just implement that in your exam. Don't worry. Okay. So I hope this class was fun. It was our first class of verbal logic and verbal reasoning. We'll continue with such sessions going forward. I'll see you all again later this week. Okay. So stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your sessions. Have a good day and the rest of the week as well. Bye. Thanks for attending.